First of all, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Keith Chapman. I have a liberal arts degree in filmmaking, and I've also worked as an art teacher. My family and I live in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I work as a senior cybersecurity analyst at Belkin. I've been in information security for 5 years. Belkin has been partnering with local school districts and created a cyber academy for high school students that want to prepare for information security careers. Our program includes classroom instruction, training for industry credentials, and on-the-job training. For the last 2 years, I've led our cybersecurity internship program. My goal with this talk is to help us develop ways to incite the imagination of the next generation so they can see themselves differently. This talk is for you if you are a mentor, you lead a team, or you want to see how imagination can be applied to develop the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. Years ago, I worked on a help desk and found information security to be very interesting. I volunteered to work security incidents because I wanted to learn more. Still, when I began to study this field, I couldn't imagine what this career might be like, and I began to have fears and doubts about moving forward. This failure of imagination almost kept me where I was. In time, I realized that I could imagine what a cybersecurity career could look like, and I started to apply for various positions. Now, I've led Belkin's cybersecurity intern program, many of whom are minorities like myself, for the last 2 years, and I've recognized the same failure of imagination in our students and potential interns. It seemed to me that imagination might only take you so far. I felt like my journey had uniquely qualified me to help. This year, 250 students participated in the program. We currently have students in 3 school districts. The first time that we had interns in the Security Operations Center, I spent days preparing an exhaustive and detailed itinerary mapped to a security framework. It was the wrong approach. I decided to use a pre-assessment instead. Pre-assessment is a small quiz before you begin a lesson. Our team asked interns questions like, do you play video games? And what platform do you play on? This gave us a baseline on a subset of technical skills. We then related our initial talks to what they told us. And on that, we built a foundation. The interns worked with us in our Security Operations Center, or SOC. This is not what it looks like. In the SOC, we work with technologies like a SIEM or SIEM, data lakes, and firewalls. We're the first responders for many security incidents. We do investigations, incident response, interpret intelligence. We monitor our company's systems for attacks, anomalies, and insider threats. It's a fantastic environment for interns to learn in. What is imagination? The definition that I'm going to use for this talk is the ability to form mental sensory experiences that are not generated by perception. Also, the process of making meaning, creating narratives, or comparing concepts or objects. Disclaimer: I find imagination fascinating. I am not a scientist. This presentation is based on my observations, and I'm trying to express something that I hope will be helpful. One quote that I liked when I was looking this up says, imagination also gives us the ability to see things from other points of view and empathize with others. Imagination extends our experience and thoughts. enabling a personal construction of a worldview that lowers our sense of uncertainty. In this way, our imagination fills in the gaps within our knowledge, enabling us to create mental maps that make meaning out of the ambiguities of situations we face where information is lacking, by Dr. Murray Hunter. Dr. Hunter of the University of Malaysia, Perlis, has identified 8 types of imagination. He says that imagination allows us to combine information together and to synergize new concepts and ideas. It's utilized when considering or developing hypotheses, different pieces of information, and pondering over various issues of meaning. It allows us to create and develop stories, pictures, poems, stage plays. It gives us empathy to know emotionally what others are experiencing from their own point of view and reference. It's concerned about the vision of what could be, the ability to recognize and evaluate opportunities. It's concerned with manifesting emotional dispositions and even extending them into emotional scenarios. Or it could take the form of dreams, an unconscious form of imagination made up of images, ideas, emotions, and sensations that occur during certain stages of sleep. Memory reconstruction is also a form of imagination because it involves the process of retrieving our memory of people, objects, and events. In this talk, I'm interpreting how I think this applies to the field of cybersecurity. I've modified the types of imagination in an attempt to clarify something that I think deserves further study. Creativity, theorizing, fantasy, empathy, strategy, soft skills, dreams, and memory. One view of creativity is that it's about making connections and combining information, such as finding relationships of what you've read and experienced, making connections about different domains. As the students began to grow in a curiosity about what they would encounter day to day, they began to make more connections. They marveled at the variety of attacks. They told us stories of attacks they'd seen at home, and they began to internalize what they were doing. Theorizing. Analytical thinking is a key component of the student's roles as security analysts. We can't know it all. We worked hard to minimize the stigma of being wrong. We encouraged asking questions, and we gave the interns tickets to investigate. Fantasy. We involved interns in tabletop exercises. In these exercises, I would create a credible threat narrative, and as a team, we would work through possible scenarios to defend against the attacker. This kind of information is also used in other ways, like social engineering or creating pretext. Empathy. Using your imagination to understand others and to help them is a powerful application of your imagination. This is one of the key ways that we mentor others. Strategy. Imagining what could be is a vital part of cybersecurity. We use it when we plan defenses, when we look at indicators of compromise, when we outsmart attackers. Soft skills. This has some overlap with empathy, but it's about the application of using your imagination to manage yourself and to work well with other people, or to skillfully navigate situations. Much of cybersecurity involves teamwork. Dreams. This is your unconscious imagination. It's not quite intuition. We're not always sleeping while we're dreaming. Finally, memories. Memories are not imaginary, but they are not externally sensed. I'm definitely not saying they are imagined. They're one of the things that shape us. Cybersecurity is a very dynamic field, and continuous learning requires lots of memorization. Some of these types of imagination are used more than others in cybersecurity, and of course, they can apply to other domains. There are many applications. What I'm saying is imagination is a catalyst, and it needs to be put into action. These are some of the ways that we put imagination into action. We encourage job shadowing. We built individual education plans. We gave the students many hands-on activities. We showed them our phishing workflow and got them involved. We dialogued through the analytical process, and we included them in our tabletop exercises. We're not limited in how we can apply these interpretations of imagination in professional development. I want you to see that inciting imagination is a call to action. Imagination is failing many students, and they just can't see themselves doing what we do. Help them by making it personal for them. More ideas. You can volunteer, attend conferences, compete in CTFs, capture the flags, practice in cyber ranges. These two links are resources that I found useful and I think would be good to give the students or yourself if you're interested. One's for information security, the other is a conference list. We live in a time where knowledge seems like an unlimited resource. In my journey in information technology, I've met so many people willing to help, teach, or mentor, and many times all three. Our interns have begun to see how big the field of cybersecurity is, and that we'd only be able to show them a small part of it. They have many questions, and we've encouraged exploration. They've even told their peers how excited they were to be part of the program, and it's generated significant interest. Now we plan to expand our program so that they can work in other IT areas and cybersecurity roles outside of the SOC. Cybersecurity is such a big field, and it keeps expanding. Our key takeaway was we needed to learn how they learn. That looked like shadowing, working with a mentor, building a lab, watching videos, taking something apart, studying for certifications, or following a to learn list, which could be a text file or a handwritten list of things that you desire to learn. We made a practice of reviewing with our interns and we'll make modifications based on the learning styles that we observed. So what I mean by incite the imagination is to move to action. This is a quote from one of our local newspapers. Students told us how much they liked the program, even though they didn't even really know what they were getting into when it started off. But now they're learning a lot more than they thought they could. Incite the imagination of the next generation so they can see their future differently. We found that many of the students that we encountered could flourish in cybersecurity. They had the attitude, desire, and aptitude. Many had developed threat modeling, risk analysis, and social engineering skills as they've grown up, sometimes as a means of surviving. In the end, we learned that we could incite the imagination of our interns and give them eyes to see their future differently. One of the students' parents came in after the fact And she expressed that neither she nor her child could have ever imagined an internship experience like this. Neither of them had an awareness of this opportunity. And we were able to succeed into making it personal to them, something that was a viable possibility of the future. We were deeply moved by that. These are ways we can grow our imaginations. Do something boring. Read fiction. Watch fantasy movies. Listen to music without lyrics. Journal. Have stimulating conversations. Ask questions. Vary routines. Embrace chaos. Or simply be uncomfortable. Minority representation within the cybersecurity field at 26% is slightly higher than the overall US minority workforce at 21%. I was surprised to see these numbers. This is not consistent representation across all domains or roles. For instance, in security analyst roles, that number is about 3%. Our students needed to see a face like mine and yours. So I encourage you, imagine and take action. Any questions? Again, thank you for this opportunity. If you want to get in contact with me, you can find me on LinkedIn or Twitter at Silverline. Thank you for your time.